Well, good morning. Saturday the 10th, about -10 right at the moment. Glorious clear sky. The sun is shining on the fresh fallen snow. What a sight. We've had a fair amount of snow, not as much as Calgary got. We got about a quarter, I'm estimating. But we're going to be working in the shop today to start the day out. Lots of things to do. And we're going to start our first project. But of course, when you own property, things break down. And walked into the studio this morning, and a couple of things happened. So I'll tell you what's going on for today, and we'll get started. So I opened up the door, and I didn't have to go far to find two problems that needed fixing before we could get going. Either the pilot light or the gas was interrupted sometime during the night or yesterday. I haven't been here for a bit. And the place is freezing. All the water-based stuff in here is frozen. The glue's frozen. So we've got that started and turned on the compressor. And I don't know whether it's the cold or just being old. The supply lines from the piston heads that fill the tank, one of them broke. And I can't get a really good picture, but it broke right where it meets the piston. So I've got that off. And we're going to fix that first. And so come on in, we'll get started. And a couple of the projects that have to happen today is, of course, we're going to be fixing the compressor. So I've kind of got it apart, and you can see the little piece of copper pipe where it broke away from. So that's done. I'm going to put that back on. We've got something happening with a 1950s tripod, of course, for the camera. And that was stripped, so that has to be repaired. This week I bought a new battery for my quad, and of course they couldn't find the same size, and it's 19 millimeters shorter than what is actually supposed to be in there. So that's an easy fix. I'm just going to cut a piece of plywood to the same size as the battery, put it underneath, and we're going to be starting a fun project. Lots of birds around the area, and Mrs. from the Woods thinks we have to feed them. So we're going to be starting a couple of bird feeders, and found this on Pinterest. I thought that was a pretty easy design. We have lots of wood that we can work with, so that's what's going to be happening today. And so we'll do the repairs first, and we'll get to the fun stuff. So we have a fair amount of wildlife around the property, a lot of them being birds. We see a lot of chickadees and the nuthatches, the gray jays and blue jays, and other birds that are flying around the area. And we wanted to start a project to make a couple of bird feeders, so I picked a couple of logs out of the firewood pile. We'll square up the ends and make the markings for cutting out the inside, and as they say, build it and they will come. So we're kind of hoping that once they're up on the fence post, that the birds will use it regularly, and we can enjoy that from the kitchen window. The doors are done. The compressor is fixed. The furnace is running. The battery spacer is made, and now we're going to spend the rest of this morning making bird houses, or bird feeders, I should say. And I think the first order of business is I have to set up the bandsaw and square up the bottoms or the sides, and that way I can stand them up on the bandsaw, make my markings where I want them, and then run them through the bandsaw like that. So we're going to put the bandsaw to the test in a little bit. So let's get that set up. Picture, it looks like you have to save the entire core, and you have to cut this out in a sequence. So I think what we have to do is we cut the first little section out, and once that's done, then I can cut this section. So I'm just going to eyeball a opening, which I think is big enough. And we'll kind of trace that. And of course we don't want to have too much of a sharp entry or exit, so we'll just kind of eyeball this a little straight, and then we'll see how that cuts on the bandsaw. Pretty soft wood, so I wasn't too concerned. But there's the first piece, which matches the first piece that has to come out of the log. And what we're going to do now is we're going to make the second piece for the opening where all the birdseed goes, and we're just going to kind of rough sketch it. We'll follow one of the rings on the log itself and just mark it out with pencil. So we've got about 3/4 of an inch of wood, and then the bark. So we'll cut this core out next. And that's about good, I think. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we'll cut that next. Cut pretty good, and hopefully that just slides right out. So we'll take that out. We're going to cut off some sides, discard the center, glue those back in, and I think that's pretty well the end of the project, other than waiting for the glue to dry. So that's one built. Turned out pretty good, I think. It looks pretty much like the picture. We even managed to save a bit of the moss that was growing on the tree. I'm sure that'll blow off at some point. So the next step is to go drill a 3/16 hole at the top of the fence post, feed the bolt through the hole, and fasten it to the top of the fence post. So let's go do that next. So now screw it to the top of the post, and we're about to put a bit of bird feed in there. I don't think that it's going to hold a whole lot. Oh, a fair amount, 1 cup's worth. And we'll see what we get. And hopefully the chickadees and the nuthatches and probably the squirrels too will come and have a little bit of a feast on our fence post. So now that I know how the first one went, the next two will probably be pretty easy. And we'll just give you a quick picture of those up rather than watching me build them. So we'll get on to the next project, and stay tuned for more videos.